Hi. I was going to try to explain how I work. I was listening to a Guy Clark song, and the words are something like, sometimes you write the song and sometimes the song writes you. Hi, I'm Pauly from Rochester, New York. That Guy Clark song made me think about how I work. The piece behind me here is Normandy, and I made this in 2018, and it was in Quilt National in another year. And I think it's an example of how I made something, and all of a sudden that thing became, it told me what it was. I don't often make anything with any intention, but in this case, when I made Congregation, the piece that's in Quilt National now, that was totally surprising to me. I didn't intend to make that statement, but I'll show you how I started it and how I came to figure out what it meant. I'll take you to my studio. I'm down in my my wet studio, and I make a lot of fabric. My professors wanted me to be a painter, and I think using dyes, that works for me. I make lots of fabric, and sometimes it gets used. And I think this screen, I do a lot of screen printing. I think it's this screen that I used to make Congregation. And I printed a bunch of fabric, and it ended up on the design wall in a selection process for what I was going to do. So after I make a bunch of fabric, I take a look at what it is. I never make fabric with the intention for a specific project, very rarely. Anyway, let me take you to my design wall. So this is my design studio. It's pretty humble, but it has an enormous amount of space for me to compose, and I compose directly on the wall. I'll give you a quick pan of it. It goes from one side to the other, and it ends up with a long arm at the very end. I've got a couple of machines here that I use, and that's just the nuts and bolts. What I'll do is I'll take a bunch of fabrics, I'll lay them out on my surface, and from that it becomes my palette, and I don't go back. So I will start composing as I put some things up here to look at to see how they're going to react to each other. And for me, that's the true improvisational way of working, to see what fabrics are speaking to each other. When I started making Congregation, I really had no idea what it was going to be, other than I wanted these fabrics to work together. And after I wrestled with them, this central figure of those large circles started becoming people to me. And the image of people getting together, especially in a year where we couldn't get together, it became a conflict, and it became a story. And I started thinking about being able to get together in a group. And then it occurred to me that there was a group that very innocently got together for a prayer meeting. And I'm not religious, but there's something about people who are just intent on gathering in quiet prayer. And they were gunned down, they were killed. And so this huge conflict of violence and a peaceful gathering started to shape what was happening in my work. And all I could think of was people were doing their innocent thing, shopping or going to a mall or going to a nightclub or going to hear a concert, and some person took it upon themselves to kill them. And so this ability to congregate in peace, I thought was very strong, and it was very sad. This piece became that thought about violence and about being together to do something peaceful. And I thought Congregation was a good tag for the year we went through and not being able to congregate. Anyway, I hope that explains my work a little bit more and how I work, and it was really an honor to be included in Quilt National. So thank you for having me, and enjoy the show.